Okay, it is 4 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and begin our meeting. I call the meeting to order. And next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we please rise for the pledge? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item B on our agenda is approval of a flexible agenda.
I move we approve a flexible agenda.
Okay, a motion was made. Second by Doug. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none? No, there's nobody online, is there? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
President Gilkerson,
Yes.
I would recommend, due to the fact that we know Heather will be leaving, and should we happen to lose quorum tonight, that we skip, actually, after number 2,
Right.
that we would skip all of our reports. So we would skip number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and move to 8, and then put those at the end of the meeting if
We have time.
we have time and quorum.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Lewis. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, consent items. Did anyone want anything pulled? Seeing not, we'll go ahead and someone want to make a motion to approve?
Move to approve the consent items as published.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Motion was made by Ross, seconded by Carrie. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. So we're going to move on to item number 8. So item number 8 on the agenda is Lake School's fuel system. It's for discussion and possible action. We have Mr. Dennis. We're going to have you come up and state your name for the record, sir. Thank you for being here.
Push the button.
There you go.
There we go.
My name is Dennis Hilscher.
So Dennis, I will present, but Dennis is certainly here to answer any questions on this project. Right now, we have a fuel station here at Douglas or at George Wattell High School. It has a lock on it, but does not have the key card system that we use in the Valley at our airport system. And so we are, the proposal for you tonight is to upgrade our system to do so in conjunction with Douglas County. Douglas County has a facility elsewhere here in the Tahoe Basin, but their tanks have been deemed unusable, and they're going to be needed to be replaced. And so we're going to do a joint project. The proposal before you tonight is a joint project between the school district and the county to create one fueling, to use our fuel system up here with the card system. And then we bill the county monthly, just like we do at the airport training center currently. So systems would be pretty much identical, one in the valley, one in the lake. So that is what is before you tonight.
Thank you. Does anyone have
Dennis, do
any?
you have anything more you want to add? That
No, that's pretty much good. It's basic of accountability, and we'll be able to manage our fuel system up here from down in the airport facility.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions? Doug?
Just curious of who's filling up. Is this just buses or is it?
So it would be buses. It would be any district vehicle up here. And that's one of our, when we talk about accountability, that's one of our concerns right now is we don't have accountability. And so anyone that would have the ability to access the system, we don't know, we don't believe it's happening, but they could be fueling personal vehicles. And so any county truck up here with the police, Douglas County Sheriff's Office would also, the cars up here would also use this facility as well.
Well, what are they doing now? So whoever has a key uses it, or?
So Dennis, you can.
It's a 2-key process, and basically it's an honor system where we used to have somebody up here monitoring the fuel for years. The transportation coordinator for the buses, they monitored so we don't have that anymore up here. So we're trying to help with the county, plus it, it makes it updates everything to where it's supposed to be. We have snow removal during the winter, which uses a lot of fuel. And I believe we have 2 routes currently. And that's what our fueling system in the past was. It was an honor system.
So when you say 2 key system, really people just come and fill up their vehicles.
Yes. If they have access to the key.
And we're gonna split this with Douglas County. Out of the 120, they're paying a third of it.
Correct, and that's about in the airport facility, they use about a third of the fuel. So that's kind of the arrangement that we've had with them. And we had an upgrade dug in the valley as well prior to you coming on, I believe, and split the cost similarly as when we did that upgrade of the island.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Anybody online, Heather or Ross?
I don't.
No?
No, I think my question was answered by one of Doug's. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So would someone like to make a recommendation or a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that the board award the bid for the George Whittle High School fuel dispenser, card reader, and tank monitor project to LA Perks and Petroleum Specialists in the amount of $120,311, with DCSD being reimbursed $40,309 by Douglas County for joint use of the facility, as recommended by Director of Transportation Mark Rhodes and Shop Foreman Dennis Helscher.
Correct.
Okay, motion was made. Someone want to second it?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. And is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is bus driver arbitration. This is for information only. And Superintendent Lewis? Or I don't know, or is Joe?
Good evening. Yep,
Oh,
it's
okay,
me.
sorry.
Thank you. I think there's a presentation, John. All right, so next slide, John, please. So Douglas County School District and the Chapter 6 Bus Drivers Association had a current negotiated agreement which ran from 2022 to 2025. That agreement was ratified by the association members on July 13, 2022. And in that agreement, there was a provision in Article 10.7, which is the second bullet point there, that states that the district could reopen negotiations if it identified additional funding. And due to underspend last year, we did identify additional funding and wanted to provide compensation for all of our groups. And reached out to the Bus Drivers Association to open negotiations into compensation for last school year. And we started that process in November. We presented our first offer to them in November of 2021. Through that process of 4 meetings, the association offered 2 counters to us. Our final counter offer to them during the negotiation process was January 6th. And at that last meeting on January 6th, the association declared impasse and requested that we go into mediation and arbitration, excuse me. We were not successful to reach a agreement during mediation and therefore went to arbitration, which was held on May 23rd, 2022. The the decision came down to comparability for the arbitrator. And as the district at that time acknowledged that it wasn't a matter of ability to pay, but more of comparability matter for our salary for bus drivers. And during the arbitration hearing, both groups, the district and the bus drivers, provided a last best offer for the arbitrator to rule on. And the arbitrator ruled in favor of the district, selecting our last offer. And as you can see, I'm not going to read all this to you, run through all of it, but the overall cost of the compensation package for the bus drivers was $188,370.86. It is for your information that the arbitration ruling was final, and that decision is made, and now will go into effect. Back pay has already occurred for that group. Do you have any questions for me?
Now, pretty much.
Yes,
Okay. And are they, I mean, obviously they're still here driving buses, so moving forward with the new contract, basically.
correct. Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody online have questions? Heather, Ross?
Nope.
You say no?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, the Douglas County School District Student Achievement Presentation for information and discussion. And Superintendent Lewis will lead us through this.
So before you, you have probably more data than you ever cared to see. We have been very busy. I want to acknowledge our assessment grants and progress monitoring office for dealing with many, many requests from the superintendent in terms of data and looking at it from a lot of different ways and probably making a lot of different requests that they've never seen. So as I give a brief overview of the 2021-22 student performance data, I want to start off by stating that obviously my job as superintendent is to establish and maintain high expectations for student achievement and improved outcomes for all DCSD students. Over the past 27 months, assessment has really taken a back seat, and school accountability measures have been suspended at the state and federal level as we have navigated our way through the pandemic. While we are glad to be back to a more normal situation, the impact of the pandemic on student learning is real and quite frankly, still not 100% known in terms of the degree of learning loss our students have experienced. With that in mind, I feel it's important to look at 2021-22 data as our reset point, as the baseline we will expect to improve upon. I have clearly communicated my expectation that our staff will be aware of their student achievement data, and we will work hard every day to continually improve our instruction. And most importantly, we will focus on creating conditions that make assessment more meaningful to our students and staff. About 3 weeks ago, my cabinet and I met with every administrative team to review their student data and to establish school learning goals based on that data. I feel our conversations were outstanding. And as superintendent, I am confident our educators are not only aware of their data, that they care deeply about their data, and that they have plans to improve student achievement within our schools. And so I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to give you a little bit of a high elevation report, but this report contains information on our ACT, our AP, our Smarter Balanced, and our MAP growth. I've also included comparisons, not only with other Nevada school districts, but also looking outside the boundaries of our state to a more national level. And then finally, the last page is just an overview of how assessment has changed. And I've kind of addressed that with the board in the wake of some criticism about test scores that have dropped from the 80% to the 40 and 50%, that the tests have changed over the course of time. And so I want you to have that information and kind of a summary of how tests have changed at each level. So looking at our ACT assessment, just as a reminder, our ACT is administered to all juniors. ACT is, students can take the ACT multiple times, but they only take it one time for our accountability purposes. So on the date that we give that ACT, whatever they score on that test is the data that will be used for proficiency. If they go on to take it multiple times and perform better, they don't update necessarily our scores. Nevada is also one of only 8 states that require all juniors to take it. And so sometimes when people do a national average, many states, your scores are higher because your only college-bound students tend to take those. Yeah, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Question, these numbers on here, what do they represent?
So
I mean,
looking
there's,
at that,
anything from 17 to 38 or whatever, what are those, this is the 5-year trend page? Is
yeah,
that
so
what I'm
this is a
looking at?
5-year trend page. So up above the average composite score. So what that is, Doug, is it takes an average of their performance on the math, the reading, the English, math, reading, science, and then Nevada requires the writing. Writing is typically optional, but Nevada is one of the 8 states that also require that as a requirement. And so that's an average of how they perform. So on this top chart, Aspire Academy performed on average at 13.9. Douglas High School is at 18.1. Whitell is at 17, and then as a district, 17.7.
So, I mean, I understand that, but is this a percentage of something or what's the high
It's just a
score?
composite score. So they receive 36 is the highest,
Okay.
would be the highest score. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Sorry about that. I didn't understand the question. So as you can see, a decline of 0.4 district-wide. Douglas High School dropped 0.5 and Whitell had a more significant drop of 2.8. I do want to point out, though, that you're going to see more variance at Whitell as your in size is smaller. So the less students that you have, you will see greater fluctuation than you would in a Douglas High School with far more students. I talked about, and then this is the class of, so this data is obviously juniors from last year, this year's seniors, the class of 23. And we have not been able to, they have not released national results yet at this point. When they do, I will certainly update this information in the comparative nature in the back to give you an idea, how did we perform with the other states that also require the same testing conditions. So questions on that? And please know, as you go through this, don't ever hesitate to email, call if you have questions as you're going through it. I know it's a lot. Go
Did
ahead.
you, I see we have the state of Nevada. You said this was comparing with other states. Is there something in here?
So in the back, Doug, when we get to the comparability in the very
Okay.
back,
All right.
there is a chart there that compares, it compares Douglas County and Nevada. The other states that required are Wisconsin, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Alabama, North Carolina, and Hawaii. And so right now we know what Nevada's scores were, but we can't see yet what those other states have done for last year. We have it for previous years, and you can see that, and we'll fill that and update you as, and this is, these are the things that we will continue to track. So every year when we come back before you, we'll continue this trend and we can see where we're going on that. Okay, moving on to AP. So AP is given to all students who take an AP test. There can be some fluctuation. So there will be tests that are listed here in your data report that we didn't necessarily have a class or anyone test last year. And then there are also situations where, like in this last year, we had one student that took Chinese language and culture. They took that, wasn't a class at Douglas High School, but they did the required studies and then took that test independently. And so there's only one student, they passed it. So we have 100% pass rate on that one. But generally, I think this data is really important because we often talk right now in our assessment system, and we talk about this at the state level, there's really a lack of motivation built into our assessment system or nationwide. The ACT is a college entry test. Students that don't see themselves going to college are asked to take a 3-hour test, and motivation, whether we want to admit it or not, is a big key. And so I think those are some of the conversations we're having with our administrators, is how do we build better testing conditions? We're probably not going to get everyone to come to the test and take it seriously, but what we can probably get more, that we can set the conditions better as we move forward to have that assessment be taken a little bit more seriously. And I think we would speak to that even at the SBAC level, and to some degree also the MAP level, is how do we create those conditions to make it more meaningful? And I think that's really some of the discussions that we're having. But I celebrate, while our overall pass rate went from 74% to 70%, Douglas County students, and especially at Douglas High School, are scoring on 16 of the 19 assessments. They are scoring above national averages on an average of about 15.5% higher on each one of these tests. And so that kudos to our AP instructors, kudos to our students. That's, in my opinion, pretty remarkable. And it speaks to that our kids are being prepared, and when that motivation in that, because they can get college credit or have courses waived by passing the AP assessment, there's a built-in motivation there. Waddell didn't perform as well. And going back in terms of AP, and again, you don't have huge in sizes on any of these. I think around 50 is the highest number of students we had take any test. So you can get, again, some volatility, but we saw pretty significant drops at Douglas in calculus AB, computer science principles, and physics 1. And so we'll continue to monitor that. And we're going to watch all this from a trend aspect. Like I said, Waddell did not perform as well. In only 3 of the 9 assessments did their scores go up. On those 3, it was by 12.4% higher. And again, I've said this, I guess I don't probably need to say it again, just the volatility you can have when you only have 9 kids taking the test, and in some cases 3 and 4. So, and then, so I think that's basically AP, if you have any questions on that.
Keith, I just had a quick question. Do you, have you been able to figure anything out of why our calculus and those others dropped by so much? I know during the pandemic, it became optional whether you took the test. And I know there were some changes that it was at home one year. You know, is there anything, or is it still optional? And is there any data you guys have for that at all?
So I don't know, is it optional? I don't know that it's still optional. If they, yeah. Okay, so it is still optional. So I think those are things we got to dig into. On the calculus, you know, I want to get into those. So I have not been able, I don't have the information for you, Heather, but certainly those are discussions that we're hoping that we're having with the teachers. And again, you know, also looking at trend, being careful not to overreact
Right.
to a drop. And again, looking at it and kind of even at the teacher level, you know, you can have classes that come and struggle, and the very next one you can do the same thing and they perform well. And so really watching that as a trend, but having those discussions, at least, do they know anything specifically that leads them to know why we had a 30% drop
Right.
in proficiency? So I will ask those questions and report back to you.
Great. Thank you. I would just like to add, overall, I think we have done really well, and we have great AP teachers there. And I see students working hard in those classes and learning a lot. I think it's very successful.
And I think the one, you know, a couple of them that statistics, you know, we had 20 students, and that's probably one of the hardest ones, and that to have a 94.7% pass rate is phenomenal. And again, I think across the board, we've had some really good scores from AP. So thank you.
A quick question.
Yep.
So these numbers we're looking at, these are pass rates, not like ABC or whatever.
Correct. So that means, Doug, that they scored either a 3, 4, or 5. So that's a 5-point scale on the AP, and you have to get a 3 or higher to pass it. And so these are the percent of students who passed it, not
So it doesn't reflect how good they did beyond that.
correct. Yeah, it is broken down. Like, let's just take, Doug, let's take the first one. So 2D art and design, 6 students took it.
Which school are we looking at?
Let's go to Douglas. Go back to Douglas.
Okay.
Page 5, 2D art and design.
Yep.
So in 2022, 6 took the assessment.
Yep.
Their mean score was 4.33.
All right. I see.
And then, so 4 of them scored at a level of 3, 2 at a level or 4, and then none of them scored at a level 5 on that assessment. So it breaks it down where they fell.
And,
Okay.
and that means that in order to take that and get college credit, they just have to get a 3 on it to be able to take, college will accept
Okay.
it as credit. It's up to the college, yeah.
Yeah, and
Every college
it does
different.
depend on college, not all.
And
honor.
some colleges last year weren't even looking at ACTs. They weren't
Yeah.
even considering those because of the pandemic, so.
Moving on to, and just quickly, I can gauge, we also are required to give the Nevada Civics assessment to all 12th graders. 94.6% of our 12th graders passed the civics exam, so that is included in there. We also a high school science assessment to 9th and 10th graders. And we had some drops in that assessment. Across the board, the district went down approximately 9 point, I think it's 9.3 if I'm doing my math right, points on that. And so again, we will be looking at that and making sure that we're reversing that trend. Smarter Balanced is, this is what's called the SBAC assessment. This assessment is given to all 3rd through 8th graders in the spring. This assessment has to occur after the 120th day of instruction. So that is one of the requirements of this assessment. Overall, Douglas County saw a decline in proficiency of 3.1% in math and 2.7% in reading. As you look at that, I kind of gave you a visual of red arrows and green arrows. There are certainly pockets that we had some nice improvement. I think every single school at least at one grade level and some at more saw increased achievement for the 2021, but there's also, as you can see, a lot of red arrows that show a decline. Once again, it's not necessarily, you're not comparing the same kids. So you're comparing a cohort in 3rd grade one year to a cohort, to a different cohort in 3rd grade the following year. So we keep that in mind. But overall, I would tell you that my concern, I am concerned with our middle school performance. So across the board, except for 8th grade reading, we saw declines. And so those are going to be discussions that we're having at the middle school level. Why are we seeing those declines? And we also saw uncharacteristic decline at Minden Elementary, which has typically been a pretty high performing school, but across the board had a pretty significant drop as well. And so again, those are those conversations we are expecting our administrators, we're having with our administrators. And math has always been a concern. I go back to when I was a principal at Powell. For whatever reason, in 5th and 8th grade, we have historically seen a pretty significant decline. And I think there's been the standards become more rigorous at those grade levels. And so again, we're talking about, as we kind of did with our grading, putting together a math task force and really looking at our math instruction across the board. What are we using and how are we using it, and trying to really have some conversations around math and why, what can we do to turn math performance around. I mean, it's certainly nationwide an issue, but we obviously want to get this momentum turning in the other direction. We did look at this also from the standpoint, as you all know, we had 900 students leave us to online schooling. And I think most of us would tell you that This is absolutely not any criticism of those teachers who worked in our online environment, but we know that the level of engagement was not the same as it was in in-person learning. And so we took the time to break our data down to look at students who spent the 2020-21 school year in Douglas, Nevada online, and then compared to those that were in person learning for the 2 years consecutive. And so in looking at it from that, at the elementary level, there was really a marginal difference. There was a slight increase from the students who were in person both years, but extremely marginal. And there was a 7.6% difference. The students in person for 2 years performed 7.6% higher on a proficiency scale. As we've talked about this, talking to Shannon and Leslie, we really believe that the holes that are created by the pandemic in math are going to be more difficult to close. That the fact that they, were readily on par in reading isn't necessarily as surprising to us. And we would expect in-person math instruction as being far more effective than what they received in the online environment. At the middle school, we saw a little bit of gap in both 4.5% gap in reading, and then that gap was almost 10% in math between in-person and online instruction settings. So again, we'll continue to monitor that and continue to look at that. So questions on that one?
There's a lot to take in here.
There is a lot. And so I say again, as you get through this, come in, I'll answer any questions that you have, because it is overwhelming. And just so you know, we have broken this down by school level, and we've created data folders for each one of our sites. And as we pull these reports, we're providing that to the principals, breaking it down even to the teacher level, so that they get a better view of where their school is performing up against other schools in the district as well.
Keith, you mentioned that you have met with a lot of the administrators and stuff and kind of talked about some goals. Are they working on coming up with the goals, or are there any goals you can share with us of things that they're thinking of doing to work to try and help this?
So it's a mix, Heather. Some we sent back to revamp their goals, or some of it was just discussion. Here's where we are, and now go back. I would tell you that across the board, math is a much higher focus than it has been in the past. Often, especially at the elementary level, goals are focused more around reading, with the idea if students can't read, then every subject area becomes more challenging. So I would tell you there's more focus in the school learning goals around math. A lot of them, I think, are understanding the importance of the interim assessments that the Smarter Balance provides. One of the issues that we're talking, and we're even talking at a state level, is assessment literacy. We don't do enough on ensuring that we're assessing students in the classroom the same way that they're going to be assessed on an SBAC assessment. And so when they get to these SBAC assessments, the rigor of the questioning, the stamina that's required of the question, our kids struggle with. And so using interim assessments, not only as informative, but also as warm-ups, that they can take questions and work through questions together with their class, and really, be able to teach, to help kids understand what is this question asking and how do I go about. So I would say interim assessments would be where a lot of them are going in terms of goals. You guys have more to offer in terms of things that I haven't? Okay. And so again, just I think making them more familiar with that. And again, I believe epic learning and kids understanding, as we get through the work of really identifying those priority standards and really focusing our instruction in a little bit more narrow than not so broad, that we will also see increases in achievement as well. So I think it's a multifaceted, and it's hard because, we've talked to, fifth grade teachers at Minden, and they're just absolutely floored at the proficiency rate that came back, that it's just complete shock to them of where they expected their students to perform. And so, I wish data was such that we could just say, this is exactly why they scored this way and we can fix it. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions?
And then
Okay.
just finally, map growth. And again, I think this is extremely important. The realization that you may have a fifth grader that is performing at a third grade level, and they may never get to the fifth grade proficiency score, but are they growing the amount that we expect them to grow? And so every individual student has an expected growth that's based on their performance in the fall, and then where are they expected to be in the spring. And so this growth data shows that this is looking at growth from the fall to the spring, and how many students at each grade level at each school met expected growth, and then what percentage of total students that was. And so there's obviously some very nice numbers in there. There's also some numbers that are concerning, but overall, on average, that our students are more than 50% of them are meeting expected growth, and we will continue. Again, I think that I've already stated it, but I think the conditions of our MAP assessment, especially in the fall and the spring, really building those conditions where students take their time and know the importance of performing at their best. So
I got a question. So how many SBACs are assessed during the course of the year? How many tests are there?
So SBAC is just one time.
Just one time?
SBAC is one time in the spring, anywhere after the 120th day of instruction. MAPs we administer in the fall, and then we administer them again in the spring. Those are mandatory. And then we have a winter administration too. And that's an optional one. Typically, we do any kids receiving any kind of intervention. We encourage that they take the MAP winter assessment so that we can see the progress of that intervention that they're receiving.
So the SBACs are valuable for the next year.
We would argue that the SBACs are really useless because it's an autopsy that the kids are now not even in the class. We don't get the data back till the summer. So it's like an autopsy of the, and then they move on and now you're into different standards. And so it's, we are pushing at the state level to revamp, to look at our assessment system, and could we potentially use the MAP growth as, but there are lots of federal and state laws around assessment, and one of the factors, as we talked about this in Vegas last week, is that anything that we try to do new will have to occur concurrently with our current system. And so they will allow you to try something new, but you will have to show data that it meets the standard. And so now we would truly be adding potentially even more tests on students as we try to navigate that. And so there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration with the SBAC assessment and the timeliness of data. In the response of that, and again, we've pushed that we need the data back sooner. So then then we got a testing schedule that pushed the SBAC assessment into February. So now we're taking an assessment in February when we still have March, April, May, and half of June of instruction. So we're asking kids to take an assessment of which they haven't even received half of the instruction of which they're going to be assessed. So it's complicated. I think sometimes it sounds like an excuse out of my mouth, and I certainly hope you understand I'm not making excuses, but there are some ways the system's set up to not reflect really what our kids know.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm I'm looking through these. In general, they're all averaging about 50%, more or less. And some schools are generally on the lower side. Is that standard, or is that just, do you think that's?
I
'cause of
think it's a
COVID,
little
or-
bit lower, yeah, and it's a little bit lower, but again, I think we saw that across the board, that, overall performance is dampened. I don't think it's significantly lower. But again, it's, we'll see kindergarten this year and kindergarten next year, you could have two, I mean, it's not always apples to apples, so it's,
Yeah, you're looking at different kids.
yeah. Yeah, so when you're, and I didn't give you map growth. It's a pretty complex report, and this will be kind of our baseline on that. And you will see these scores again next year with another column next to it, and so we can monitor that. And also, Doug, we're at the end of our fall administration, and so we'll be pulling that data, looking at seeing where we are, because we'll also measure fall to fall. So we have the ability to keep monitoring how they're progressing. And we'll just continue to keep that data in front of our administrators and our teachers and ourselves. This has been, I will tell you, Mark has provided me the data. This has been amazing for me as superintendent. And again, the entire time that I've been as superintendent, the first year we didn't test at all. They suspended all testing. Then it went to really about, they suspended the participation, and the accountability system has been suspended. And so there really has been, it hasn't, it really has not been a priority, and that's not negative that we haven't made it a priority. It just hasn't been. And so this has been, I will tell you, I know more now going through this, and I think it's really helped us with conversations. And again, when I talked to our administrators, I said, I want you to walk out of here that I know that you're aware, I know that you care, and I know that you have a plan to improve. And that's all I can ask of our administrators. And I think the conversations were good, and I believe we own it. We own it. And then in relativity, we still continue to perform relatively at one of the highest in the state of Nevada. Those that want to say, yeah, but the state of Nevada performs 50th in the nation. We respond back to our NAEP scores have been 18th highest in the nation. And we've, in the back part of this, I've taken this data and compared it. There's no secret that Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Jersey are considered some of the highest performing states academically in K-12 education. And so we've taken our numbers and how do we perform against them, and we're holding our own. And so I think that's important too, because I think that's been one of our concerns, is that we can't get complacent. Though, okay, we're the best in Nevada, and that we rest our laurels on that. We need to be making sure that we're monitoring how we're doing nationally as well. So, and that's the data towards the end of the report. So, any questions? This will be posted online, this report, and then it will be something as we update. Again, we're waiting for data from Massachusetts and New Jersey to keep that updated for 2022. And then we're waiting for the ACT. We're still waiting for graduation rate, all that information to get finalized. And so there'll be more information that we will include on that snapshot document that we included as part of the strategic plan. We'll be keeping that updated and keeping data out in front of people. So.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Lewis. We'll move on now to item number 11, which is the first reading of Board Policy 518, graduation requirements for discussion and possible action. Leslie Peters, Assistant Director of Educational Services, will do the presentation for us on
Thank
Board
you.
Policy number 518.
All right, so we have some state regulations that require a change to this policy. We've spoken already. American government used to be 1 credit. The state now wants that broken into a half credit for American government and a half credit for econ. We've already spoken about that. We also know that the state now has a seal of STEM and STEAM, and so that revision is now been added into this proposed revision. And at the last meeting, we talked about the honors diploma, which is actually not a diploma. It has been more of an endorsement or a seal. So our proposal is we remove that from the table on the first page of this policy, and we add it to the end of the policy as an honors endorsement. awarded to the pupil who earns 24 credits, earns a GPA between a 3.6 and a 3.99, and completes 10 semester hours of honors or AP classes with a B or better. And so that's been in conjunction with some conversations with high school counselors. And that also ensures that we capture the students that have those requirements but don't receive the GPA of the 4.0. And so that was part of the conversation at our last board meeting, was what about those kids? So this ensures that we have captured those students that don't quite have that 4.0 GPA, but still have those other requirements as part of that. So
Leslie, correct, it was around 34 students, right?
I know at Douglas High School, there were 57 students that received either the honors or cum laude. 13 of those students received just the honors. So there would be 13 students who at Douglas High School, I didn't speak to anybody at Wattell, but 13 at Douglas that would receive that honor seal on their diploma that would not have otherwise received any other recognition.
Okay. Any questions?
Could you restate that there with the new policy, they will not get the badge?
They will. It ensures that actually the students that take the courses, they have the number of credits and they take those honors and AP courses. It captures those students with a GPA between a 3.6 and a 3.99, where in order for them to get the cum laude endorsement or recognition, they would have to have a 4.0.
Any questions? Heather or
I just want to comment. Thank you, Leslie. I think this looks good. I like this, just to allow those students to still get the recognition, because they work hard for that. So I like it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would just like to weigh in. I know that trustee Lehman was concerned about this policy. I did have an opportunity to speak to him, and he is okay with the as proposed as well.
okay. Ross, any comments?
No, but I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, go ahead.
I move that we approve the first reading of board policy 518 graduation requirements.
Okay,
Second.
okay, motion made, seconded by Carrie. Any public comment? No public comment. We'll go ahead, bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Leslie.
President Gilkerson, I would, the next issue or the next agenda item is a hotline website process. If you remember, this was a request of trustee Lehman. And in his absence tonight, and given that there is really no urgency necessarily for this, that I would ask that you consider tabling this item. Be up to you.
Okay, is there any problem with
Yeah.
that with anyone? No? Okay. We will table item. Doug, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And Heather and Ross, okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and we'll table item number 12, the hotline website, until trustee Lehman can be part of our discussion, since this was brought up by him. All right, thank you. We're too early for. Yeah, we can, can't we? All right. We'll go back to our reports, since we're, it's a great job here. Heather, I guess we'll go to you first, if you're prepared for the NASB report.
Okay. Yeah, the only reports from NASB is I did meet with the committee that does all the awards for the year. And so we have prepared the awards and the recipients, and that will be taking place at the November meeting that they have. And so today Karen sent out an email that has the classes that will be offered and the events that will be taking place. And so please let her know if you will be attending that meeting so that she can get that taken care of for us. So I would say let her know ASAP, but it will be up at Tahoe and it's at the beginning of November.
Thank you, Heather. Karen, what was the sign up date for early? Is there a deadline? So we need to sign up by October 20th if you want to attend. Let Karen know and she'll sign you up. Don't sign yourself up. All right, thank you.
Heather, do you know when notifications of recipients will be made?
They will be letting the superintendents know. They're planning on letting it be a surprise for those who are getting the awards, but they'll let the superintendents know so they can invite them. And I would say that should be coming out probably this week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Mhm.
Board reports. Heather, do you have anything? I don't want to lose you, so I thought I'd go to you first.
Sure. Yes, I had a great time this past month. I just volunteered at a couple schools. I would just show up for the day and say, I'm here for volunteer. Where do you need me? And they would put me in classrooms to help students with things and to see different things going on. I really loved it. It made me so excited and just helped me to see why I love being on the school board, and how much I love supporting our students. I just wanted to really quickly just give a shout out. When I was at CC Manili, they were doing their STEM week stuff. I know it was in the paper, but I was so impressed to see volunteers from the Elks Club that were there working with the students. And I was very impressed with that and just thought how neat, and we need to have more volunteers that are in our schools, especially with the low math numbers and the things that are going on. That, just to have people in there volunteering and helping. So I just thought that was really neat. I also got to be a part of the high school seniors practicing interviews, and was very impressed with that and really enjoyed the opportunity I had to work with the kids. And so kudos to those teachers for putting that on, and for all the community members that showed up to be a part of that.
Thank you, Heather. Ross, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Yeah, I went to Pinion Hills and visited with Jason Reed and took a tour of the school, which was very nice. And then I went back there for a DPAC meeting and there was no meeting. Do you know where that was, Carrie?
I do not. I couldn't attend.
I think you got there too early. There was a meeting.
But
It
I
was a-
talked to the custodian and she was like, there's nothing on the board. There's no meeting
It was-
scheduled for later. Normally they
Yeah,
won't clean the room if there's going to be a meeting. And she said, there's nothing here telling us not to.
it was on the website for 5:30. You were early. They usually say better early than late, but in that case,
And then the other thing is I went to the,
Is that you?
yeah, I know. That's a bummer.
it's all right, it's all right.
Wow.
Anyway,
Sometimes you gotta walk around the school a time or two to get the right orientation, yeah.
I also went to just short bit of the professional development day at DHS and sat in on a psych for science class workshop. So that was good.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Gary? Thanks, Doug.
I took my first instructional learning walk, and it was at CC. And I got a bird's eye view of what epic learning is all about. And I really liked what I saw. I came away with, got to get up close and personal with the students. I had a kindergarten class, 2 second grade classes, and a 4th grade class. And it was all amazing to be with those kids and to watch how epic learning is being implemented. And I came away with the view is, I wish I could have been taught in that fashion. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Carrie. I also attended the interviews at Douglas High School, and it was so exciting to see all the members of our community that pitched in to do this. It was very exciting, and the young people that I got to interview, boy, they just knocked it out of the park. So I feel so hopeful for our seniors. Also attended a couple of instructional walks. I went to Powaloo, and then I also attended, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? We went to Scarcelli. Was it just yesterday? Yesterday we did Scarcelli. And again, I've been doing these now. This is our probably 3rd round, maybe, or 4th round, 3rd round. And boy, you can just see the growth from the last time you attended and how Epic is really working. And again, it's very exciting to see how our teachers have embraced this. So I also attended the Teachers and Leadership Council meeting on the 28th of September. And every time I attend, I learn more and more about that. And yeah, I'm hoping that I gave NASB heads up, maybe they might want to do a training on the Nevada framework, so everyone will understand how that works, especially a school board. I also attended the forum and attended in the morning and took some great classes. And let's see what else. Oh, I'm on the Parks and Rec board, and I had the privilege of going on a tour of the new event center last week or the week before. And wow, that was amazing as well. We got to go all the way up to the catwalks, and we got to write our, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but we got to write our names on one of the beams, and so it was kind of fun. And then I also went to a training of something called the Hope Squad that Shannon introduced to us last month or the month before. And it's suicide prevention. And the gentleman that came in did a great job. And I'm very, very excited about this program. I think it's going to really make a difference, not only at our schools, but in our community as well. And those are my reports. Okay, we'll move on to anybody correspondence? No, okay. And then item 6 is good news. Does anyone have any good news? I have just one thing. I mean, a lot of the things that we see that are good news are in the paper, so that's kind of cool. But I talked with a parent of a Minden student, and they went on I think it was a 2-night, 3-day science overnight up north, Northern California, I think it was. And he was a chaperone, and they got to sleep in the tents. And he was like, his only thing that he said was he wished it would have been longer, because by the time you get settled in, they felt like they could have spent another couple days. But he had nothing but wonderful things to say, not only about the programs, but about the 5th graders and how well they were behaved, and just the entire thing. He couldn't say enough nice things about it. And that's what I have.
I'd
Others?
just like to share on the good news, and we'll make sure we have a more complete list, but I'd just like to thank the Minden Rotary. Mark just attended their meeting where they have awarded many grants to Douglas County School District. And so their generosity to the district and for providing additional funding opportunities for our teachers is greatly appreciated. I want to make sure we publicly acknowledge the Rotary, and again, we'll give a more comprehensive report to the board next month.
All right. And we'll move on to item number 7, which is our was that it? Was that your superintendent's report?
I got a little
Okay.
bit more than that.
It is
Thought so.
5:20.
Was that wishing that was my superintendent report?
We thought it was.
Actually, go ahead. You have 30 minutes.
You're in Hawaii. You got all day, Ross. All right. So it is brief, more brief than you're used to. So as I always do, I'd like to start off thanking the following individuals and organizations for donations. Donation to Douglas High School this year. Sotheby's International Realty donated $5,000 to the boys basketball program. Randall Ward donated an xylophone to the music program. And at Gardnerville Elementary School, Nancy Ray Jackson donated $500 to be used in 2 specific 2nd grade classrooms. So those are our donations for the month. Enrollment, DCSD enrollment counts through the October reporting reflected an enrollment of 5,344, which is up from 13 from September and 65 down from where we were in October of 21. We have reached an agreement with all of our employee groups, bus drivers included, to provide our employees with a retention hiring bonus that will range from $850 to $1,340 based on the number of contract hours. The bonus will be paid in the October 31st paycheck and is funded out of the ESSER 3 federal relief funds. In total, the approximate cost of this bonus across DCSD is $960,000. And if you've ever worked in grants, this has been in the works for quite a while, but it finally got approved through that lengthy process. And hats off to Mark on the great work he's doing in our grants to get these approved. Mark sent you an email reminder this morning, but this is just another nagging reminder to complete the superintendent evaluation by October 24th. And then Mark will compile those results and my evaluation will be on the November board meeting agenda. I wanted to remind you all and maybe notify you all for the first time on some of these, some upcoming events. This Thursday, October 13th at 6 o'clock, we will be hosting a virtual town hall meeting for the community. My staff and I, with Joe is returning as the MC of our virtual town hall meeting. That's just truly a question answer session for our community. We will be having, Cade is organizing the Cte Showcase. It's for all parents and students, but really focusing also on 5th and 8th graders in terms of the Cte opportunities that we're providing that are a little bit extra from the school day. That'll be held on October 19th at Douglas High School from 5 to 6 o'clock in the main commons area. Douglas High School is hosting the Girls Nevada 3A State Golf Tournament at Genoa Lakes on October 18th. I think that's an all-day affair if you want to go out and not only support the Tigers, but watch a little bit of high school golf. You're welcome to do so. Again, to try to be transparent and to have discussion around SEL, we have asked Mickey Trujillo and Tracy Fisher, both former Douglas High School graduates and now working in the Safe and Respectful Learning Office, to do a social emotional learning awareness night. Originally the date was going to be, I got this wrong, but originally it was going to be the 20th, but there's a conflict with the trunk or treat up here at our lake schools. And so Mickey and Tracy have offered to hold a second session. And so we will be up here at the lake on October 19th. We'll be at Douglas High School on October 20th, both nights from 6 to 7:30. That's open to anyone in the community interested. And if you're in the Valley and you can't get to the Valley one, you're more than welcome to come up here and vice versa. They're open to anyone. And we are conducting a survey, a very short survey, to find out the concerns of parents, what they hope to gain from attending the information night. And that will help guide Mickey and Tracy as they discuss SEL and what it looks like in Douglas County School District. And then just a reminder, it's hard to believe, but we are quickly approaching our first break. The October break will be from October 24th through the 28th with students and most staff out that week. A lot of you have alluded to it already, but we have started our instructional walks at our district schools. So it's afforded me the opportunity to visit classrooms at Pinion Hills, Minden Elementary, Powaloo, and Scarcelli. And then I was out during the walk on Friday at CC Minnealy Elementary School. We'll be coming up here to our lake schools, Zephyr Cove and George Whittel, this upcoming Thursday for our instructional walk there. And any of you are welcome to join us if you so desire. And if you could let Shannon know if you're interested, he'll make sure you're, it's tomorrow? Oh,
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
So it's tomorrow. That's what's on my calendar, apparently. So if you want to join us tomorrow, let Shannon know tonight. And then just finally, you've also alluded to the Learning Forum. It just continues to be a great event from my perspective, and feedback has been very positive. I'm not, I'm a little hurt because I'm not sure what to take of the feedback form. We forgot to take the keynote speaker question off. I opened the form with about 5 minutes of words, and I've gotten some ones, which is the lowest score. But then there's been several comments. They're glad we didn't have a keynote speaker. So, that's joking aside. But I want to thank Shannon. His assistant, Lisa Vincent, does all kinds of work behind the scenes to make that happen. Leslie obviously plays a hand in that as well. And most importantly, I want to just thank our district staff. It's amazing how many of them are willing to get up in front of their colleagues and share amazing information. And it's just been a great vibe. And you worry about sometimes doing things too many times. But the feedback shows that it really is, our staff appreciate the opportunity to be with people that they don't get to be with on a daily basis. So thank you to everyone behind that. And that is my superintendent report, Ross.
Any questions?
Not bad.
All right. I think we'll go ahead and move to item 15 then, right? We can go ahead and keep moving.
Yep.
And that is prioritizing agenda, possible items for future board meetings. Does anyone want to add anything to this list? There's just one thing on our list at this time. So is Heather still with us? Did we lose her? She left. Okay. So Ross, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, there's nothing I've got. No.
Anybody else? Carrie or
No.
Doug? Okay. And we don't need to do anything with that item. Just leave it the way it is. Okay, so now it is 7:05 and we have to wait for public comment till 5:30. So
But you could take some if they're here.
Public comment for people who are here.
oh, okay.
I mean, you can have more public comment.
Right, but we have to have one at 5:30.
You gotta,
Okay,
yeah,
So-
we could start at
Okay,
5:31
so if-
now. And then-
okay.
And then start it again at 5.
If there's anyone here that would like to speak for public comment, you need to come up, write your name, and you get 3 minutes. And is there anyone online? If there's anyone listening that wants to talk with public comment, go ahead and raise your hand and John will patch you through. No? Okay. Oh, yay, we have somebody.
We'll have 3 minutes for public comment and I will raise my hand for 2.5 minutes and then I'll raise it again for 3 or unless
He's got
Carrie's got
cards
the
here,
card.
Ross, I got the cards.
He's
Good,
Carrie's
you
got the
good,
card, so
good.
he got a visual.
Thank you.
So, thanks. So when you're finished writing your name, if you could state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Chad Gherkin, parent of 2 little ones down at the elementary school here at the lake. Just wanted to say that we're really happy to have Sean Ryan back. And it's been a great addition having Mr. Pace. So really happy with the direction things are going and the energy that they bring to the schools, and we're behind them. So I just wanted to relay that to you guys as a board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We love to hear comments like that. Thank you for taking the time to speak. Anybody else? Any other public comment?
Somebody is on the phone. John, how do they raise their hand?
So if you're on the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand. Or if you're online, just click on your name and click raise hand.
I think what we'll do then is we'll go ahead and we'll just adjourn till 5:30. Do we need to make a motion?
Linda, do we have a closed session tonight?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead. It's about 9 after 5 and we will adjourn till 5:30. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring this meeting back to order. We're going to continue our item number 13, which is our public comment at 5:30. So at this time, if there's anyone that's interested in speaking during public comment, please come up to the table, or if there's anyone online. All right, So we'll close our public comment for our 5:30 public comment. We have completed our agenda, so now we're on item 16, the last item on our agenda, and that's our public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak at this public comment? Anyone online? Okay, that public comment is closed and meeting adjourned. Thank you.